Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Untraditional Industries. Today we have a special guest, another special guest from what you might think is a traditional industry, but he's got a very untraditional story. So we're excited to be joined by Chris Camacho, founder of UniWerks Design.
That's right. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it. I think I'm kind of breaking your norm a little bit because it's a little bit of an unconventional business compared to what you've had previous videos on. But
you put a unique spin on it, you know. So
I'm still amazed now that I am where I am, considering where I came from. But I'll get to that in a second. But UniWerks Design is a company that I started. I make 3D printed plastic parts for vintage Volkswagen Vans. I have some Porsche products I throw in there too, and it's totally self-serving because it's just stuff that I want for my own van, basically. And then other people seem to gravitate towards, so it's been working out pretty good. A lot of the parts are no longer available from the factory or any other source. Back in the 80s, Volkswagen used this brown plastic that just disintegrates after 20, 30, 40 years. So there's a definite need for creating these parts, and people are buying it, which is cool. And I also make a lot of things to bring these vans into the modern age, adding LED lighting and USB ports and that kind of stuff to help people have fun and make memories with them.
That's so cool. So you have a van?
Yeah. I've got an 85 Volkswagen Vanagon Weekender. So it's a pop top.
So cool.
It sleeps 2 on the top and 2 on the bottom.
Is it here now or no?
I thought about that on the way here.
You can open the door, you can pull it right in.
All right, cut, let's redo it.
Yeah.
I'll go home.
So, I mean, how'd you get into this? Like, how do you get into 3D printing parts for Volkswagen Vans?
Well, it starts way back. As a kid, I was really into cars, and that just carried it up until now. First it was matchbox cars, of course. And then when I was 17, I got my first Volkswagen, which was a blessing and a curse because it was one of the biggest pieces of junk around, but it was cheap. And I couldn't afford to pay a mechanic, so I bought a set of tools, learned how to wrench on the car. That's carried me through. Got into motorsports from there. I had done autocross and ice racing, track days, road rally, crewed for a bunch of racing teams for a number of years, which was a blast. Mostly Volkswagen stuff too, so it was all kind of in the family. But I took CAD classes in high school. After high school, I really didn't have a firm grasp on what I wanted to do, so I just took liberal arts, and I got an associate's in liberal arts. I think I hated high school, but I hated college worse. So I just started working, and it was in a machine shop. I was just drilling parts, and then I went from there and just moved up the scale. Finally, I was in electrical assembly, and my supervisor asked me to make a copy of this electrical schematic. And so I asked him, well, there's a free CAD station that's open up front. Can I jump on that? And he said, I don't care. So I went up there and started working on that, and the owner of the company walked by and saw me over there, and he's like, wait a minute, Chris, you know how to do this? I said, well, yeah, I took it in college and in high school. He's like, how would you like to do this from now on? I'm like, okay. Yeah. And so that kind of springboarded my career as a draftsman. From there, this is about the 90s. The 90s were a great time for engineering people in the Buffalo area. Worked for a couple of job shops and just bounced from job to job to job, different places, doing process piping, doing mechanical design. Worked for a building maintenance department for a pharmaceutical company on Grand Island for a couple of years, West Valley demonstration projects. And then finally, I ended up at a medical device manufacturer in Orchard Park. And they were using a 3D CAD program called SolidWorks. Huge program. I jumped on that and I loved it because you can build your part and spin it around in 3D right on the screen. Yeah. And it was so much fun. So I got certified And 2 years after I started using it, became a certified SolidWorks professional. And then that really jump-started the plastic part design part of my experience, my career. I was with that company for 15 years. Great place to work, great people. It was healthcare products, so I was helping people in the end, which was great. I ended up getting 5 U.S. patents for medical devices working there.
Awesome.
So I can't complain with a liberal arts degree. I think I'm doing okay.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
I was there 15 years, and then they did some restructuring in the engineering department, and I got laid off. And I had some time on my hands. So my wife is great. She was like, why don't you just do what you want for a little while and figure things out, and then we'll go from there. And that was the best advice.
Yeah.
I got a little bit bored, so I started banging out some parts that I needed for my van. And I threw them up on Facebook. And Facebook is great because you get these pages that are just dedicated to all the freaks like me for Volkswagen Vans.
Yeah.
They're all in one area. So I started putting what I'm making on there, and it started to get a little bit of a buzz to it. People started buying it, so I ended up making an Etsy shop, and then I got a full-fledged website and started doing that. And about 3 months into this, I got contacted by a guy in the UK. His name is Jed, and he's got this really big site called campervanculture.com. And he makes travel videos with his family. They go throughout Europe, camping, that kind of stuff. And he's got a Volkswagen van as well. And it just so happens he's got a pretty big online shop that sells parts for these vehicles as well. So I was pretty excited to get this message from him on Facebook. And he said that he's impressed with what I'm doing, and he's wondering if I wanted a UK distributor for my parts there. So I was like,
that's awesome.
Wow.
Yeah.
So it just starts snowballing, right?
Yeah.
And so I said, yeah, of course. I'll tell you what, though. I had just gotten married, and my wife is a U.S.-UK dual citizen. So we're going over to the UK in about a month for a second wedding party with family, friends, that kind of thing. And so we scheduled a date and time that we'd meet while we were there. And it was so British. We had lunch at this pub, nice pub lunch, couple of pints of beer, and just talked, hung out. He looked at some of the parts I brought. He loved them, and just went from there. So, okay, boom. Now I've got a UK distributor.
That's so cool.
Yeah, it's been a wild ride. I really have no complaints.
So I know you were talking about the parts, kind of just hearing on the Volkswagens, but can you tell us more about like the problem that you solved?
Oh, sure. As I said, it's kind of self-serving because it's just parts that I needed for my van. And it turns out that this is typical with everybody who's got these vans. They have the same problems. So it just worked out pretty well. I also noticed pretty quickly that there's a lack of innovative products for these vans. There are people that resell plastic parts that they pull off of junk vans or whatever and resell them. But just for example, one of the problems I came up with is when you go camping with your kids, like it or not, nowadays they've got electronics, they've got cell phones and tablets and all that stuff, and they sleep in the upper bunk. And there's no way to charge that stuff up there. So you have to plug it in way up front or bring it all down there. And we like to sleep in. So if they have their tablets up top, they'll be quiet so we can sleep the next morning. So I just came up with this little adapter plate that used a stock vent that we no longer use anymore because the AC hasn't worked in mine for years. So I just made a little plastic cover plate with a switch on it and dual USB ports so they can plug in right there and they can reach it. Yeah. And people thought that was great.
Yeah.
So that's been huge. But one of the things that's really popular right now is the hashtag van life. It's spilling over into popular culture. I mean, even non-Volkswagen freaks will understand what I'm talking about.
I get the videos on YouTube all the time. I don't know when it started happening, but I started watching them, and they're cool. Some of these vans are crazy.
It's amazing. People are just selling what they have and buying a van, fixing it up, and then just traveling and experiencing life, which is amazing. But I sell a lot of products to that subset as well, because it just makes life easier for them.
Right.
So it works out.
Yeah, it's some of the best businesses come from like your own. You basically just were your first customer. You were just making stuff for yourself, and then
Exactly.
realize, oh, I'm not unique, really. All these other people are just as crazy as I am and want this stuff, and it's
Yeah.
so cool. So, I mean, you took a pretty big risk though. Like you had this job for 15 years. Like, what risks did you consider when you were like, when your wife said that to you? Was there things going through your head like, oh, what was that like?
It's a little scary because you're going into uncharted territory. I've never ran my own business. I think I took 1 or 2 business classes in college, and that was so long ago that I have no idea. But the idea of running my own business was a bit overwhelming. But I think that's like anything. After you gain some experience and power through it, it all seems to kind of fall away. And like anything, experience grants you wisdom. So you just keep going with it. But to circle back to your question, I think I was pretty lucky that the risks were pretty low for me. Mm-hmm. I mean, I could always go back and get another job, designing parts for somebody else. So
Right.
Whatever.
Yeah. That's cool.
Now, it must be great just, doing what you love, making your own parts, but how would you define success?
Success, having others see my vision and be supportive of it, I think is one of the best things that I see. My customers, they love the products I'm doing. They love what I'm doing. They're very supportive. I have a review set up. Every time somebody buys something from me, they get a link to post a review. And 92% of my customers give me a 5-star review for the products and for my business, which is huge to me.
Yeah.
That's great. I've also received some accolades from other of the major vendors in the market. There's basically 5 other companies that sell in the U.S. And they're way bigger than way bigger than I am. I had one of them actually repost one of my posts that I made, just an introduction about myself and my company, and he told people on his social media platform that they should support me in my innovative company because I'm doing good things for the community. So that to me was just huge.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've got very loyal and supportive customers, incredibly lucky in that aspect. So I think that would define success
That's awesome.
for me.
Yeah, I mean, that feels good for sure. It has to feel good. It sounds like everything's going awesome and great, but what are some of the, and maybe they've changed, what are some of the challenges you faced like day one, and then have they evolved? Do you have new challenges ahead of you? Do you see them changing?
Sure. One of the biggest things was getting the company started, because I had no idea how to start the company.
Yeah.
How do you form an LLC? What do I do? So luckily New York State has a lot of programs that they offer for free for people. One was SCORE, SCORE. They teamed me up with a mentor, and the mentor I had was great. She just told me basic things, and that's what, when you're starting a company, you really need to know the basics before you can start running. You need to learn how to walk.
Yep.
So that was great. And Jed from Can Prevent Culture has been a mentor to me as well, which is great because he knows the market that I'm in. So that's been fantastic. The other thing I did that it's funny looking back now, because it was a major expense when I first started, but I didn't want to deal with the bookkeeping, so I just got an offline service to do that for me. Okay, I'm like, how am I going to justify paying this person every month to do this for me?
Right.
And I just kind of put that out of my mind and just kept on cranking out parts. And now it's one of the best things I've ever done, because I can focus on designing parts and doing stuff that I like doing rather than doing books and stuff.
Right.
So know when to say when, I think is the key words there.
Yeah.
Now, what mistakes have you made along the way, or what mistakes have you learned the most from?
this is the most difficult question that you guys posted to give me. I think I rewrote this 4 or 5 times, but it came to me just the other day. There's a customer that messaged me directly, and he said, Chris, you're mechanically inclined. You know how to install this stuff. You designed it. There's a large subset of us that have no idea how to do that. We're intimidated by doing electrical work. We don't know how to do mechanical work. Can you give us some detailed instructions on how to install the product, step by step, with pictures, that kind of thing? And I'm like, yeah, that makes perfect sense. Why would I not be doing this from the beginning?
Yeah.
So now I'm going back and updating the listings on my website to include wiring schematics and step-by-step instructions on how to install, which is very needed. So I wish I would have saw that from the beginning, because now I've got to go through and go back to every one of those products and re-update it.
Right. Well, when you're so involved, it's so easy for that to happen. When you're so involved in something, it's second nature to you.
Yeah,
and you're
exactly.
just like, well, of course people know how to do this. And then it's like, oh wait, well, it's actually pretty hard stuff. And that's cool. I'm assuming they find, your customers find you online, but this is a very niche specific, right? This is, we think we have a small market. This is very niche. So how do you find your customers? How do they find you? Is that hard? What's that like?
There's a couple different avenues for that. The one I said before, was the individual Facebook groups, which is great, because you can get to just the specific subset of people that you want to talk to. Another one is just the web shop. I've got it set up that when you Google Volkswagen Vanagon parts, I'll come up in the search, which is great. And then I've also got, of course, an Etsy shop. I've got a Pinterest site. I've got stuff on eBay just to catch all the people like that. But one of the biggest things I've done, which is great on a couple of different levels, is that I sponsor a couple of Volkswagen shows. There's one in Pennsylvania and 2 or 3 in California. And the one big one in California is called SynchroFest, and that's coming up the end of next month. I actually went down for that last year and donated a bunch of stuff for the raffle that they have. And this is a great event because it's 300 vans. We rent out an off-road Jeep park, so it's all off-road trails and stuff. And there's 4x4 versions of these vans too that are incredibly capable, so that's mainly the focus of this. But you're getting 300 people in one area for an entire weekend. So all you do is go from campfire to campfire, from van to van, talk to people, hand out stickers, hand out t-shirts, that kind of stuff.
Right.
And it's amazing. Last year, because people will stop you, they're like, Chris, come look. This is your product in my van.
That's so cool.
That's awesome.
That's gotta feel good.
It's an amazing feeling. But I've been working on a YouTube channel as well, kind of getting into video a little bit, which is, it's been fun. I was kind of intimidated a little bit at first because of I didn't want to do the editing and that kind of stuff, but it's fun, so I'm going to keep going with that.
Awesome.
So why Buffalo?
Well, besides a couple of summers spent in California, I was born here, I've been raised here. It's a great place to live. I think when we have harsh winters, it kind of brings us all a little closer together.
That it does.
We look out for each other.
Yeah.
What do we have, like a 30-minute commute time to get anywhere you want to go? That's awesome.
Yeah.
The outdoor stuff is great. Canal side's booming. It's just going to get bigger every year. It's relatively affordable. You don't have to have a super high-paying job in order to get a nice house here, which is great. But yeah, I couldn't see living anywhere else, really.
Is there a lot of Volkswagen community here, with the vans? No. Not
so much.
Yeah.
The West Coast is a mecca for that. They're all over the place.
Yeah.
Europe. There's some here. I went to a meeting of the local Volkswagen club, and it was mostly the older air-cooled Beetles and the older Vans and stuff. I did a presentation for them on 3D printing, which was great, it's well received, but I haven't quite broken into that market yet. I've got a few products which I'd love to expand, but we're getting there.
Alan mentioning the Beetles. Alan, one of the founders here, has a Beetle. It's like old Beetle vintage. In Brazil he lives, but I went there once and I got to drive it. It was so cool.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, it ran out of gas after like 3 minutes, but it was still fun for those 3 minutes.
I'll have to shoot him business cards and stickers and stuff.
Yeah. I think his brother tries to take care of it, so yeah, he'll probably find this interesting, Dan.
Sweet.
But so I mean, what would be a piece of advice for somebody like this story is like it's going to be inspirational to people. It's so cool, like seeing where you went, and just now you're doing something that you love, and it's obvious that you love it. So what would be your advice to somebody in a similar situation wanting to do this?
I've got a mantra that I live by, and it sounds hokey, but it totally works for me, and my wife will vouch for me too. Slow and steady wins the race. So this guides all aspects of my life. A slow burn, I found, is a good way to keep my business going. Nice and slow, growing. And that builds on everything, my confidence especially, which if you got high confidence, then you can bang out more products, you can go out to different markets, you can just build, and that just builds your company along as well. So slow and steady.
That's great advice.
Now, more important, where's your designated wing spot?
Wing spot, that's pretty easy. I've got some advice about that too. I've been thinking about this one. Duff's, just because it's convenient. I'm in Orchard Park, so it's not far away. Plus, my kids, they love the videos that they show.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, it's like glue. They're just watching the stupid human videos that they show. But for anybody watching this that isn't from Buffalo, or you're just visiting or whatnot, just about any bar or chain restaurant in Buffalo will have pretty good wings, I think generally. Right?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to find bad wings.
Yeah, that's true.
Unless, if the menu says Buffalo wings,
Oh yeah.
just say no. Don't do it, because they're not going to be
that.
good.
Yeah, no real
So
place
true.
has a menu that says Buffalo Wings here unless it's a chain or something.
Right, exactly.
I actually went to Duff's in Orchard Park on Saturday. It was so good.
There you go.
But, well, that's it. Thanks so much.
Right.
Thank you.
That was, I mean, how can people, if anyone wants to get in touch with you about if we have any Volkswagen enthusiasts watching, how can they get in touch with you?
Oh, sure. It's my website's UniWerksDesign.com. That's UNIWERKS Design.com. Or all my social media is all linked to that. So just UniWerks Design, you'll find me. Thank you very much.
Thanks for joining us. Thanks for watching. And we'll see you next week.
Thank you.